Welcome back to r/AskReddit, where today we will answer the question, what is your "my landlord is/was a complete a-hole" story? And guys, in case you ever had any awful landlords, please feel free to share the story either in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first story goes like this. One apartment I rented had on the lease that they paid water and sewer. 3 months in, the water was cut off because they did not pay it, and they insisted that it was a mistake to put it on the lease and I needed to pay it. I ended up having to pay for the water and sewer, but then when I moved out they billed me $1,500 for breach of contract. It seems the clause in the contract stated, in the event of a breach of contract, the renter will be liable for a $1,500 breach of contract fee. When I pointed out they were the ones in breach of contract, they replied,
"The clause has nothing to do with who breached the contract. It only states that you're responsible for the breach of contract fee."
And the next one, I used to get medication shipped to me. It was a self-administered shot with a spring-loaded needle casing. I had a safe disposal method, etc. all set up. It was a medical issue. Well, the little coolers of medicine each month went to the main office of my crappy apartment building, and for the first year everything was fine, but then my building was sold to a new company and we got a new woman running the place. The first time my meds got shipped to me, I went down to get it from the office like always. First off, there is a massive sticker that says, "Refrigerate upon delivery." The previous people always just popped it into the fridge that was set up in the office for me. This woman did not. She left it in the sweltering back room instead. Rude and inconsiderate, but I could deal with it. But then when I asked for the meds, she did the thing where she memed like she was handing it to me and then pulled it back when I reached for the box. She then asked me,
"Are these needles? Are you having needles delivered?"
I was like, "That's none of any of your business. Give me my medication." She kept holding onto it and said,
"Well, some of my neighbors are concerned because needles usually mean drugs."
Dude, my neighbors have never seen my needles, and even if they did, you cannot actually see the needle part because it is all encased in a spring-loaded tube. There is no way my neighbors are concerned about this. They have no clue that this is something I need. I told her again that it wasn't any of her business. She finally gave me the box, but she gave me the stink eye every time I received my medication after that. Teresa, you're a nosy woman, you know that. And the next one, landlord found out I was a renovation specialist with a long background in historic renovation and water/fire/storm damage. He asked if I would do little odds and ends around the place to fix it up, took it off the rent or paid for materials to do the work. I did a lot for her. Refinished the concrete floor in the laundry room, replaced all doorknobs with new style knobs. They were the old slide-in glass knobs, so each door took about 6 hours to complete because of wood filling, sanding and painting, and then resetting the new knobs. Replaced the front door also. Repaired walls all over and repainted the whole place, hung new cabinets and installed a new dishwasher after somewhat redesigning the kitchen to accommodate the dishwasher. Refinished the ancient front entry door, rewired a few problem outlets, lights and switches. When I moved in, the place sat for a year empty. It was in rough shape. When I moved out, the place was awesome. So nice, in fact, it rented out for $300 more a month than I had rented it for. It also rented out 4 days after I moved out. She did not have to do anything to move a new family in. So a few weeks go by and I am starting to wonder where my deposit is. Clearly I should be getting that back, but nope, got a letter in the mail saying she was keeping it because of a bullcrap list of stuff. So I took her to court and won. Her argument was basically that this is how she makes money. It is her only income. The judge looked like he was holding back laughter before he ruled in my favor. And the next one, while deployed, my wife remained at our home in Texas. The AC broke in the middle of summer. They told her that the temperature was not hot enough to constitute a repair. When she showed them pictures of the thermostat reading over 100 degrees indoor, they finally said that they would send a repairman, but that I needed to be there because I was the primary name on the lease, although she had power of attorney. I threatened to sue. AC was eventually jerry-rigged. The repair guy told her that he was paid to do the bare minimum fix near the end of summer. Fast forward again, I am home, it is getting hot again and the AC breaks again. Same story as before, claiming it was not hot enough. This dragged on for a while and I finally had orders to move to a new duty station. Gave them 30 days notice and moved out. They tried to tell me that I couldn't leave the home with a broken air conditioner and would not honor my military orders. I had to pay to fix the AC and would not get my deposit back. I once again threatened to sue and contacted the actual owner of the house. He was a cool dude living in New York and said he would take care of it for me. He flew all the way to see me in Texas, fired the property managers, sued them himself and said I was actually the cleanest and most respectable tenant he has had, and eventually paid me double my deposit for my troubles. Nice guy. And ripe stars, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video if you enjoy my content. Thank you very much in advance, and actually after reading this story I was just thinking, how did people actually live in Thailand without air conditioning in the past? I mean, don't get me wrong, a fan is pretty nice as well, but if you neither have a fan nor air conditioning, this place must really be hell on earth. And the next one, I never actually met him, but we nearly ended up taking him to court. We complained about a ton of broken things that he would never fix, and when they did get fixed, it was by the unqualified worker that he hired from the Home Depot parking lot. No offense to those guys, but they didn't fix our roof correctly. Being college kids, we go to the free legal counsel our university offered, hoping we had some options to get things fixed. The lawyer found out that the house we were renting had been foreclosed on 2 months prior and the bank owned it now. Extremely pissed off, we decided to stop paying rent to this guy while we got our things in order. We never did get our 2 months rent back from when he didn't own the house. But about 6 weeks later he comes by the house furious that we hadn't paid rent in over a month. My roommate simply said, "We are not paying you anymore, get the F off this property." This pissed him off even more and he started threatening my roommate until my roommate said, "We know you don't own this place anymore and we are going to sue your ass for the money you stole from us." He shut up at this point and left, never to be heard from again. We did not sue him because each of us were only out like $600. Rent was stupid cheap for 4 college kids in a big city. We made a deal with the bank to pay them the same rent we had been paying in order to stay until graduation in May. We were also responsible for cleaning up the yard and they would get someone out there to fix a few big issues, roof and plumbing, since they were going to sell the house anyway. We held up our end and enjoyed our last few months of college without a crappy landlord. And the next one, last November I get a knock on the door of my newly renovated basement apartment from the fire department saying I am living in an illegal apartment and will be evicted in 3 months if the landlord doesn't get the place up to code. The landlord kicks me and my girlfriend out in February for
just 2 weeks, but we will say 3 just to be safe.
I ask if I have to move out my furniture and he says,
"No, they would just work around it."
I then spent 7 weeks living illegally in my buddy's basement 30 minutes away, paying rent and commuting to work. Finally in April, the landlord gives me the okay to move back in, saying the place looks great. When I got back, the entire place was filthy. There was thick drywall dust on every surface, paint cans, tools and garbage in every nook, and paint splattered on the floor, windows and all of my furniture including the mattress. Some of my wooden furniture had scratches in it and the shoe rack and shower curtain were destroyed. I argued with him for days. He gave me $150 for cleaning and damages and then upped rent by $100 per month because the apartment is so much better now. And the next one, I bought my house from my landlord this year, a tall skinny house in a historic district that's kind of a hip German town, after renting it for a few years. It was constantly a struggle to get the landlord to do anything. All maintenance was done through a contractor who they apparently were really bad at paying because he eventually just stopped working and showing up. We even had the gutters break and rainwater start leaking through the wall and causing huge stains and mold to one of the rooms. They never fixed it. The basement is unfinished and filled with dirt along with all of the crap from past tenants. There is an old Gateway computer monitor down there along with old tables and rolls of carpet padding and old water heaters. Also found out the dryer has no vent out of the house. There was a tacked on kitchen to make it a multi-family, which it was until I bought it. That was little better than plywood and had no insulation. They never fixed our fence that someone slammed into with their car while speeding down an alley behind my house. They also got into a petty email argument with me because we replaced a door that had been broken, and when they had someone, in hindsight I don't know who, you will see why below, try and come by the house, they couldn't get in because the locks had changed. Even though I had tried to contact them multiple times about fixing the door and about the locks changing, they just didn't care about this house or ever really even take care of it. When my fiance and I bought the house, we do love it and are fixing it up, we were trying to find out construction and renovation information from my landlord for our mortgage. It turns out he had never been to the house, he lived somewhere else, way out west, and didn't actually know anything about the house. His best guess is that some of the plumbing was updated in the 90s when the second kitchen and bathroom were added. Which worked out in our favor because he didn't want to deal with a realtor and he didn't know the value of the neighborhood had gone way up, so he offered us the house at almost $150,000 less than other houses in the neighborhood / what the house and land are technically worth. So there was never one particular thing that was very bad, but just for 3 years they were absent, annoying, low-key a-holes and miserable to deal with, and that adds up. But in the end I came out on top with the price that I paid. And the next one, I have two because I live in a city dense with students, so every landlord is a slumlord. First was an Indian family who had a little rental business and some large apartment houses. It was my first year living on my own, and in my youthful, idiotic nature, I did not notice some clear warning signs. After I moved into my ground floor studio, it became immediately apparent the place was a dumpy crap hole. I had every type of pest minus bedbugs that you could imagine, 2 species of roaches, house centipedes, mice, spiders, flies and squirrels. I lived next to a nightclub that was loud, gross and full of drunk baboons who did coke and shot each other 12 feet from my window. I toughed it all out for a year with minimal complaining to my landlord, even when they broke into my apartment or told me, no, that open hole in the foundation that lets the squirrels in cannot be patched. I steadfastly survived it all. I did let them know how uncomfortable and pissed I was about the living situation, but they gave a meh response until move-out day happened. The lease did not specify a required date to provide move-out notice, and they relayed zero info of when I was to let them know I would not be renewing. So I only gave a 35-day notice after I secured another apartment. They got back to me saying basically that was too late, and they re-signed the lease in my name and bumped the rent up by $150. Sucks to suck. I threatened to sue. They immediately backed down, tail between their legs, whimpering about how they
"We're just a small family business, why was I mean?"
thieving guys still yanked most of my security deposit. I left mouse carcasses behind for them. And now the second landlord story. This was more recent when my SO and I were looking for a place together. We found a first floor 1-bedroom that my gut said no about, but we had been looking for close to 3 months and just wanted the search to be over. We signed the lease, get the keys, start moving my boxes of crap to be moved in. Surprise, dude, you got roaches. The German kind, because F you, these landlords were also family, a husband and wife with a son who acted as the liaison because the parents were not native English speakers. Yeah, they could speak and understand English, but not as well as their adult son. We called the son about the infestation. "Oh yeah, this is a city, so there are roaches," he said cheerfully. I bitched him out, because this was not a roach or two, but thousands. Everywhere, the molding on the ceiling was caked with roach filth. You don't notice it during the walkthrough when the lights are on and people stomping about, but upon our inspection, it was evident that the roaches had been there for a long time. It was a couple who were there for 2 years before us, and they had been living in this filth. What occurred was 6 days of BS. At one point the wife called me at 9:30 p.m. hysterical because
"Why was I doing? Why was I such an awful person?"
for breaking the lease and moving out of their roach motel. Lots of screaming involved. I essentially told them to get effed for knowingly letting us move into their crap hole. We broke the lease and the landlords came over to collect the keys. Over the 6 days my boyfriend and I were there, we did not clean up a single roach after we killed them out. Hundreds of roach bodies on the floors. Their husband took a look-see, shrugged and said,
"It is not that bad."
What disgusts me most of all is in both situations the landlord had children. I asked both sets of landlords, how would you feel about your daughter living in these conditions? To which they could not answer. I despise slumlords, most operate without a license and all their properties are gross biohazards. And the next one, I lived in a 6-unit apartment building owned by this nice old man. He was a good landlord and he and I got along great. I would help him when he was around and we would share a beer now and then. He sold the place to this young guy. I figured out pretty quick that I didn't care for him. Here is what happened. Number 1, in the middle of winter he thought it would be a good idea to start playing with the boiler he knew nothing about and broke it. In the middle of winter we lost heat for 3 days. Being young and fairly easygoing, I put a heating pad on my recliner, covered up with a blanket, and that is how I kept warm for 3 days when my apartment was like 40 Fahrenheit. He was apologetic and was sorry, so I didn't make a big fuss. Number 2, about a month after the boiler he decided that there was too much hot water for the building and turned the hot water heater way down. Literally, about 2 showers were all you could get out of the hot water tank for the entire apartment building. I was going into work at like 10 AM because there was no hot water. I called and complained and he kind of blew it off like a jackass until people started getting really pissed with him and then he turned up. Number 3, my front door had that plastic type veneer on it and it was coming apart. I called to let the guy know and he said he would use liquid nails to fix it. Knowing how unhandy the guy was, I knew where this was going already. Well, he used liquid nails and closed the door. The adhesive seeped out and glued my door shut. I called him and told him I was going to kick my door in to try and free it, and if it broke I wasn't to blame. Number 4, the toilet would not flush right. He blamed my wife for flushing sanitary products, which she didn't. I called his BS and said let's pull the toilet up. He said no because he didn't have a wax ring. I told him wait 5 minutes and I would run to the hardware store and buy one at no cost to him. He left, never did fix that. Number 5, near the end of my current lease, we had this infestation of these little red bugs suddenly appear. No idea what they were, we called him to deal with that. He showed up and handed us a can of Raid and never even looked back. After the bugs we got a realtor the next day. We had 45 days left on the lease and he refused to go month to month. I sent him my notice that we were vacating via certified mail and he kind of threw a hissy fit that he wasn't going to pick it up from the PO. Kind of told him I don't give a damn what he did with the notice, I have proof I sent it. 3 years with the old guy and never had a problem. 1 year with the young douchebag was all I could handle. F you landlord. And guys, in case you have an awful landlord and have any douchebag landlord stories to share, please feel free to share them either in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit, which is our own subreddit. And in case you post on r/ripe stories, there is a good chance that I will read your story in a video if it is a good one. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.